And we are live.
Wow, I didn't even get a countdown.
4, 3. J&T Marital Arts Podcast. Look at this. I've got your...
Hey, John.
Hey, Ervin. Welcome.
Good.
How you doing?
Morning,
We're
Ervin.
live. Hi, Tara. Good.
Hold on. Let me turn up my volume here. All right. Give me a test there, Ervin, again.
Sure.
Oh, that's perfect.
Test audio.
We're pouring our native root elderstone right now.
I can hear it.
Butter coffee, of course, in this household.
Sweet. That's all. You know what? I have never been able to make it over here. It's difficult to find a very good butter, and my mother-in-law, she makes butter, but probably there is like some techniques to make it not taste too much like grass, because the one that she makes, it
Yeah.
tastes a lot like grass, because all of the cows are grass fed, and it
Yeah.
really, you can taste the grass in the in the butter, which might not be so good with coffee.
Well, as we're talking
So
about homesteading, I would imagine, and we didn't look into this, but I would imagine your cows are very different than the cows
yeah.
over here, or the cow we buy the Kerry Gold Irish butter, and
Yeah.
I wonder if your cows have like one less stomach or something like that.
I have no idea how they will be, but
Or maybe your
I mean,
grass is just that much more resilient.
exactly. So probably the different varietals of grass that they have, because they don't just eat grass, they also eat some species of like
Plants and stuff,
yeah,
bigger
well,
plants. Yeah.
no, there is a forgot the name. What is the name of that small little plant that has usually three leaves and
Plantain,
Clover.
no,
clover.
clover, like a clover. Yes, they eat as particular species of clover that apparently gives them a lot more protein. Um, and so things like that, and within the grass fields there will be at least like four different species that they
Oh,
are eating. So it's not just a single type of grass. um, yeah, that's what they eat, and so the milk tastes a lot like grass. Is good for the milk, but for the butter, I feel that it's just good for specific purposes, not probably not so good for making coffee.
Yeah, probably not for baking and the finer things where you'd be tasting the butter more. Great for nutrition.
Yes, that's what it's very good for. But yeah, that's what I wanted to say. Yeah.
Yeah.
well, that's what we're talking about today. We're talking about the differences here between America and Colombia. We're on the same longitude line, right?
Yeah, we are. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Same time zone.
yeah. So we have very similar. You're closer to the equator, obviously, but
Right.
we have very good growing up here in Minnesota. When we built a building several years ago, you've been in that building where my shop is, and when we dug out the foundation, we had 8 feet of black dirt.
Oh wow.
Which is unheard of. I mean,
That's a
Minnesota
lot.
has a lot of black dirt, but that was quite a bit. And I was able to sell that immediately. The excavator started offering me money for it. So yeah.
So that's for you. Black Earth mean fertile land. Is that what it means for you
Yes,
guys?
yes,
Oh, okay. So that's very different here in Colombia. So here in Colombia we have dark soil, we have yellow soil, and we have a soil that is kind of like gravel, but it's extremely fertile. And
and,
we have a yellow. It's kind of like silky. It's not silk, but it's quite silky, and it's extremely good for some plants.
and that's
Not
like
every
clay. That's probably like clay. or not? Is it?
Probably the ash, isn't it?
Oh
From
wait, clay. Sorry, clayish. Yeah, it's kind of like clayish, but I was saying silk. Silk is another thing. Sorry. So yeah, it looks like clay, but it is not quite clay. But it's really good for some plants. So like for instance, the plantain, the bananas, they grow really nicely in like this in these yellow looking soils. But dark soils are really good for coffee, and these soils that are also like gravel, it looks like gravel, is yeah, is a little bit bigger than sand. It's also yellow, but it's also really good for coffee. So over here we have different types of colors in the soil, and they are good for different purposes.
Yeah, up here, black dirt is the most fertile. We have clay, we have sand, we have sugar sand, and
Yeah.
then we have there are gravelly, more larger, sandy, pebbly kind of places where the pines up here really like the sand with the clay and
Yeah.
that kind of stuff, and then the other trees, the oaks and the elms and the basswoods, they like the dark, rich soils, and the cottonwoods like more watery areas, so they'll grow near lakes and rivers and that
Yeah.
kind of stuff. So yeah, but we're laying out the property. We're doing a large garden again next year. We're putting in a greenhouse. We're actually putting in a sauna outside.
Nice.
Yeah, and we're doing chickens again. So we're going to have 22 chickens here in October. So
Wow.
we're building out one of the sheds, a new shed into a coop, because the old coop is kind of a little bit destroyed. It was a little bit older building anyway.
Mm.
But you know what we wanted to do is just kind of have a chat with you about how in America it's very much an option if you want to homestead, if you want to have a garden, animals,
Yeah.
live off the land. If you want to do that, it's very much an option. But when we were with you in Colombia, we saw how you and your family and the tribe lived, and how the NASA people lived, and your jungle was very fertile with food, but you guys had chickens and that type of stuff. So, why don't you describe a little bit about how you grew up and what you had to do there in Colombia to survive?
Yeah, so the way the indigenous reservations are structured is that the lands are passed from generation to generation, and of course that means that the longer you go down the line, the smaller the land plots become, and so my dad had what he inherited from his father. He also bought some other small amounts of land, but as you saw, John, the plots of land are very small. I mean, people don't have more than like 2-3 hectares, which is like what a hectare is 10,000 square meters. I don't know what that will be in feet, or acres. So it's not a very large amount of land. It's quite small. And so what people have to do is they have to figure out a way to make a living out of that land, but also get food for the survival out of that land. And so what most people do is, they try and squeeze every amount of whatever they can get out of that land, I suppose. And
Right.
so they will plant primarily coffee, because that is the main cash crop, I guess, in the area. And then along with the coffee they will plant other food crops, like bananas, plantains, like cassava, like beans, all sorts of things like that. But then most families will also have just a small portion dedicated for a garden, which yeah, it's very common, especially in the indigenous reservations. I figure out that that is not very common in areas where like peasants, people who still live in the countryside but who are not indigenous, they do not have that tradition of having a garden, of growing vegetables, things that you grow in a garden, onions, that kind of thing. We don't see that very often in areas that are not indigenous for some reason, and I have no idea why that is.
Hmm.
Probably they just go to the market and buy stuff like that in there. But yeah, in the indigenous reservation, people have tried to be a lot more self-sustainable. So anything that they will buy in the market, anything that they cannot actually grow in the garden. So yeah, like things like bean, onions, tomatoes. My mom always grows tomatoes. She always has peas. She always has green beans. All that kind of stuff is grown along with the coffee, or in a specific area that is used for gardening. So yeah, that's pretty much the overall um, setup, I guess, of an indigenous farmland.
Now you had power, but you didn't have running water. Oh no, you had running water,
Yeah,
and
we do.
I remember the shower. But you were also your dad was tapping the spring out of the mountain.
Oh yeah, so that's one thing that is rather common. Many plots of land have springs, and that is the case for us. We have a spring in there, and so my dad didn't want it to depend on the public aqueduct, and so what he did is he basically built his own aqueduct. Do you say aqueduct? Like
Yeah,
Hmm.
yeah.
yeah.
So he built his own thing, and so basically what he does is he takes the water when it comes when it just comes out of the ground, right? He collects it in there, and then he brings it to a larger tank, water. Did you say tank?
Yeah,
Water.
yeah, we would call it a cistern.
Yeah, cistern. Yes, he has a big one that he built. When I helped building that one, because he usually builds new ones as they get older. They don't hold the water very good any longer, and so I remember helping building that one, and it is quite big. I don't know how many gallons it will hold, but it's big. And then from there, he brings the water down to the house, and so we always have extremely high quality water. We wash that cistern every month, because there is still some soil that accumulates at the bottom of the cistern, so you need to clean it. There will be things like snails that also try to grow in there. So my mom always makes sure that all of that is taken care of. And so because we don't have in there a filtration system like right there in the cistern,
Yeah,
we always boil the water. Or like lately we have bought clay filters, and so we use those filters to just filter out any microorganism or stuff like that that might not be good for us. So we don't drink the water directly because there is still that risk of getting parasites. But overall, the quality of that water is extremely high end. Is a really good quality water.
right. And your dad had a cow, or does he still have any cattle?
No, not anymore. So one of the things that happened was that in 2010 he cut down all of the coffee trees because the prices were just so bad, and so he decided to start doing another activity, which was to grow cattle. And after we started the company in 2017, he said, well, in this case we can start growing coffee again because we will probably have better prices. And
Yeah,
so he basically got rid of all of the grass, and then he started uh, planting coffee again. So now we only have coffee, and he always has the horses, which is actually another staple in the families, for the families down there in the Caucasus state. I realized that in the U.S., for instance, to have a horse is quite a luxury, but here in Colombia, most families have a horse because it is a necessity. Most people will live very far away from roads, so the only way to bring their harvest or whatever, or just themselves, to the nearest road or to the nearest town is by horse. So you will have a horse no matter what. And so my dad, even though now the road has arrived all the way to the house. So when you, John, went, I believe there was no road that entered the house. I think there was not, or was there? I don't remember.
No,
But right now,
we had to walk down the hill quite a
yeah,
way.
no. So now you won't have to walk down because they open a new road that goes all the way down to that little semi-flat area. Um, yeah, so even though the road is there, my dad still has a horse because it is tradition to have a horse,
Yeah.
and he uses it just, he the horse is not so the other thing that we do over here is every animal has a purpose. It's a working animal. So we don't have it for luxurious reasons. We don't have it because we want to have it, right? Because that's how it's always been. And so, the dogs are there to guard stuff. The horses are there to work. The cows will be there to give milk or meat. We don't have any cattle right now, but we do still have the horse. Now the horse is sort of like just living there, I guess, the good life, because it's not doing that much work. But in any other circumstance, it will be used for doing work.
Well, now, just so all of our new listeners know who you are, Ervin Liz is a young guy that we met when we were given a talk. Tara and I were given a talk at Luther College to the entrepreneurial class. We were invited in to do that. And after a couple years of being connected on the internet through LinkedIn and chatting, Ervin presented a business plan to me about bringing coffee into America because the NASA tribe, which are his people, they raise coffee and they're at the top of the Andes Mountains. So it's the highest, is it the highest altitude coffee or one of the highest, I
I will
believe?
say it's one of the highest because I believe in the north, some people grow coffee at like 8,000 feet.
Oh,
Ours is between 7,000, 6,500 and 7,000 feet. So it's
yeah.
really high. It's very, very unusually high for coffee,
Yeah.
but might just not be the highest one.
So then Irvin started the export. I started the import. And then Irvin came to America. He was already in America, but he came out to Minneapolis and lived up here. And we got the original coffee company going, the Colombian Coffee Connection.
Yeah.
And now he's rebranded to Native Root Coffee. And that's nativerootcoffee.com. And we're drinking it right now. It's delicious, by the way. Your dad growing coffee again. I am extremely excited about that because his coffee is delicious.
Yeah. Yeah. So when we started the company, we actually didn't start with my parents' coffee, right? Do you remember
Right?
that? Because he didn't have any coffee, and
Yep.
so we began with a neighbor whose name is Misael, and he was growing some really great coffees at that moment. So
Yep.
we started with that coffee, and then after some time, unfortunately, he just went sick, and he's not been able to take care much of the farm, and he basically gave that job to another person, and they're not doing a very good job, unfortunately.
Uh,
But yeah, so we started with his coffee, and then after 2019, the some older trees that had not been cut down in 2010 started producing coffee as well from my family farm, and so we started selling that coffee. And then last year 2020, the first beans from the new plants that my dad had planted started ripening. And so we this year we have some new coffees that we didn't have before, which are a Bourbon varietal and a Tabi varietal, which are quite delicate plants. And because we don't have that much land, there is only like 3,000 plants of hedge, which produce every year no more than 200 kilos. That's how much they produce.
Now
It's a
you know
very
why I put in the large order immediately.
right. So it's a very small amount,
Yeah, that
and
is a small batch, single source, truly.
right. Yeah, exactly. So it's all grown by my parents, and we also have done some different processes. So there are many ways to process coffee, but what we have done is we are doing the honey process with that particular new plantation,
Yeah,
and so what that does is it highlights better the flavors of the coffee. So these two varietals are naturally better tasting, but when you do that process, the honey process, it really highlights some really amazing flavors.
yeah, that's my
And
favorite. And you call it semi-washed, right?
right, yeah. So one is the semi-wash, and then the other. So the tabby and the bourbon, they are called the yellow honey, right? So they are a little bit different from the semi-wash, but the semi-wash has the same idea. It's in the same. The process is not too far off from these other ones, and that really makes a major difference, because before we were only working with fully washed coffees, and they are amazing, but definitely the semi-wash and the honeys, they are so good. They are absolutely amazing.
Yeah, the honey process lets the sugar penetrate the coffee bean, and then you get more of a caramelization, right?
Right, exactly. And yeah, and some
Awesome.
flavors that will not be highlighted otherwise are shown through that process, and you can taste. So you can taste things like passion fruit, for instance, that will not naturally occur if you did not do that kind of process, and you can find that flavor in the tabby, for instance. That's where you will find that flavor.
Yeah, it's delicious. So earlier you said 3 hectares. Translating that to acres in America, that's 7.5 acres. So our property here is 6 acres. So,
Right.
however, when you go to see the NASA people and where they live, you may have only like a quarter acre of flat area where you can build your house, and the rest of it is steeped in the mountains.
Yeah, so it's actually not even flat. I mean, it's
You make
if
it
you
flat.
yeah, if you remember, yeah, you have to make it flat, because it's yeah, it's extremely uh inclined. You say inclined, like it's very steep. It's very steep, and you don't have a choice. I mean, you have to plant your trees in there, because that's what you have.
Yeah. Well, your
And
dad's plateau plot there was pretty huge. Then was that man made or was that natural?
yeah, no, that was man-made. The
Okay,
area where we were, that was man-made.
that's incredible.
And yeah, so yeah, they basically did a thing that is called the minga, which is basically the entire community joins to complete a project. And this project sometimes will be building houses, sometimes it will be flattening areas. and and they just worked in that area until they made it somewhat flat. It is not flat, and that's where many people live right now.
So
So yeah.
your dad and mom are quite the visionary thinkers because you've got four siblings, so there's 5 kids in your family, correct?
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
And
5 total.
your parents had the largest house in the community. They had the largest area in the community, and they got all their kids off to college and some in other countries. So
Yeah.
your parents are incredible people. I know I don't want to take away from saying being in the tribe, but good grief, I mean the things they brought in and the modern conveniences they brought into your home and the way they got you guys out to go to different schools and colleges, all around the world. How do you think they came up with those ideas?
Yeah. So it probably comes from like different sources. So as John, my grandfather, he was a shaman. He was an elder of the community.
Right. The most
And
powerful and famous shaman of the tribe ever.
right, exactly. And one of the things that he used to do is he used to read a lot. He used to read law, especially,
Wow.
and that's kind of like where where my older sister got her drive to become a lawyer. So the eldest in the house, she's a lawyer, and she works now here with the peace process, and she's now become a minister of that institution.
So that's a
And
high level position. That's not a
it's
minister
a
at church. That's a, yeah.
no, it's a very senior position at that institution, which is one of the largest in the country.
Wow.
And she got her drive from my grandfather. Actually, it wasn't directly from mom or dad, it was from my grandfather. And then my brother, had that who had that blessing, I guess, from my grandfather to become the next shaman. He ended up becoming a chemistry teacher, but he still has that drive to become, sort of like a shaman. But he also got that inspiration from my grandfather. And then the next sister, she's a teacher, and she got that from my mom, because my mom always wanted to be a teacher, and she even taught at some point, even though she only studied until like the third grade of primary school. But back then, third grade of primary school was very different from what it is now, right? And
Right.
so she got that from her. And then the next sister, she is an agronomic engineer, and she got that from that, because that has always been working in the farm, and he's always been trying to improve the processes, to make things more efficient. And like
Yeah.
you said, things like, just the water cistern. He has irrigation systems. He used to, he built everything. He built his own house, he built his own greenhouse. Everything that you find in the farm, he built. and
Yeah.
so and so my sister, she got that from him. That's kind of like where she wanted to go. And overall, my parents, they were always, telling us to think about doing different stuff from what they were doing, and to get out and explore and learn. And so they were never a sort of like a uh, something that stopped us from doing what we wanted to do. Because what I realized is many families over here, they don't let their children explore. They don't let their children go out and see the world, which is very, very sad. But our parents, they were never like that. When I left, I was 16 when I left home to go first to Norway to study. And mom was like, yeah, if you need to go, you have to go, and you have to go all in. You don't go there and sort of like start thinking to come back. You go and you do what you need to do. And so and so that is a massive is a massive thing for you as a person to decide where you want to head. Because if there is somebody telling you not to do something, when you are a child, that has a massive influence.
Right.
And them encouraging us was also a massive influence in doing what we have done at the moment. Like you have said, the eldest sister, so she was working for the Organization of the American States in Washington. The agronomic engineer, she did a 2 years of community college in Oregon back in 2008. And my brother, the chemistry engineer, he studied in Spain as well. He went there for an exchange. I went to Norway and then to the US. The only one who hasn't gone out is the middle one, the sister in the teacher. um, but yeah, that's what we have been able to do and experience,
That's
through
incredible.
just encouragement and seeing the examples from our elders.
Well, that's incredible. And you think 2 generations back with your grandfather encouraging that,
Yeah.
being the shaman of the tribe, that is his job, is to take care of the
Right.
tribe and encourage people to learn more about themselves and about their environment. And our environment is the world. When it comes down to it, the
Yep.
entire world is our environment because that's where we live. So that's great. In America, you got a little bit of both. You got some people that encourage their kids to go different places, and usually it's at a little bit later age than 16.
Yeah.
But then you also have people that don't encourage their kids to go anywhere, like you said. And Tara's sitting here. She hasn't said much this whole time, but she had to kind of fight to get her foreign exchange to go through with her parents, and she
Right.
ended up going to Brazil, and
Yep.
it was a life-changing experience for her. And I'm sure your trip around the world was life altering for you too.
Right. Exactly. Yeah, and we had that advantage that we didn't have to fight for it. We were encouraged to do it, and that probably has been one of the biggest blessings that I have received and all of my siblings have received from our parents, that we were never stopped, and instead we were encouraged and supported, even just in spirit. It doesn't have to be an economic support or something like that. It's just them being there to say, you can do it, you go ahead, you work for it, you make it happen.
It's oh, go ahead, Tara.
Yeah, I have a question, Irvin, because when I went on exchange, granted, I'm from the US, grew up in a suburban rural community, and I still had people who were like, "You're so lucky. How could you do that?" But I had to search for the opportunity and earn the money. And, where you come from, it's a very remote area in the Andes Mountains. I mean, how the heck did you or your family find I want to encourage people, like, these opportunities are out there, but I'm really curious, like, how did you guys find these opportunities and pay your way?
Yeah, so by 2008, 2007, the eldest sister, she had already completed her college uh, career. She was already a lawyer by then, because she graduated from high school in 2001, and then it was 5 years of college, and then she graduated. She was in Bogota, so the capital city of Colombia. So she had access to internet, um, and here in the city. Back then, back there in the countryside, we didn't have any of that. We didn't know what was the internet until like 2010, I believe. And so and so what you had to do to get to the to like do these applications was not on the internet, but it was like physical. You needed to do a physical application, and then send it to the institution that you were going to apply to. And so that's basically what happened. I didn't find the opportunity myself. It was my sister who was looking for it, and then she told me, "Do you want to apply?" And I was like, "Hell yes, let's do it." We are not wait for it. And then we just went ahead and apply. And then I remember that I had to travel all the way to Popayan, which is the capital city of the Cauca state, the state where I live. And I had to do like the exams and the application. Everything was, I had to write down that kind of stuff. Back then, it wasn't like today, where you just take a computer, you enter all of your information online, and you do everything online. It wasn't like that in 2010 in my area. So you can see how massive the gap was. And then, of course, uh, it wouldn't have been possible without the scholarship, because if you think about it, coming from the area where we come from, there is no way you can even pay for your plane tickets,
Wow.
with the quality of life that you have, with the income that people has. That would not have been possible. And in especially, it would have been possible before, because my parents used to trade large amounts of coffee back in the 90s. But after spending on 4 children, I was the last one. I was not gonna get too much. So I will not have been able to like pay for anything. But as always, we always put the effort and do our best contribution. So while most people were requiring or asking for economic assistance for, like, even buying the passport, we pay for all of that. I remember we pay for the trips here to Bogota. We pay for the passport, we pay for the visa, we pay for many things like that. And nowadays, because I have been still involved with the same organization, nowadays some people even ask money for like coming here to Bogota. And so I think they might be in a worse situation than I was, but we were able to do that kind of stuff, to pay for different things and to put our own contribution. But yeah, even that was a massive reach. We were, so at that point my father was not at home either, was not at home, because what he had been doing, he was looking for new farmland. And so he left to another state. And back then, he had to travel like a day and a half to get to us. And so he didn't travel that often. And so mom and I, we were taking care of the farm ourselves, because every other sibling either was at university or was already out of the house. And so we didn't have that much money as well, because we were sending to our siblings, to my siblings, we were sending money. And then we had to take care of my own expenses as well. So it was, we were really making every cent count.
Yeah.
And back then there was also that economic issue that happened in 2008, that it was still affecting Colombia. And
Yeah.
like I said, the coffee prices were just down on the floor. Back then it was probably like just at 40 cents, at the top. And because we depended on coffee, you can think of, what can you do with that? You can't do that much. And I remember,
Is that 40 cents a pound or what is that?
yeah, it was like 40 cents a pound.
Yeah. Hello,
Yeah.
America.
Yeah, and at that point we were taking care of three of my siblings were still at university, so they were still depending on money from us. And so my mom and I, we were taking care of that. And when we applied for my scholarship, we made every cent count. And I remember that one of the crazy things that happened was, because there wasn't any money at all, after we had spent for everything that we had to spend, I got here to Bogota. And then I didn't know that you needed to pay a tax to travel to Europe. And at that point, somebody had given me like 40 euros, I think it was. Somebody gave me that, and that was all that I took with me to Norway. And I was like, I'm gonna make this last. And then when I got to the airport, they were like, oh no, you need to pay for this. And that was the end of my 40 euros.
Oh no. Wow.
And so I travel without a single cent in my pocket. And but that's what you have to do. You when you have a dream, when you want to do something, you will make it happen. It doesn't matter what you have to do.
What was this organization that you got a scholarship through?
Yeah, it's called the United World College. The abbreviation is UWC, United World College.
And
And
who ends up funding that?
yeah, so the organization is funded by many people. The alumni are part of the people who put money into the organization. There are governments who also support the program. There are just uh, uh, very wealthy people who also donate. So the money doesn't just come from a single source. There are hundreds of thousands of sources that contribute to that program. Yeah.
So, how did your sister, first of all, end up going to college? Is higher education paid for by the government or by the people, really?
No, no. So she actually went to a private college. The eldest one here in Colombia, she went to a private college, and part of the money, of course, came from the family. But part of the money came from a scholarship for good academic performance. You know, like how in the U.S. many people have scholarships for good academic performance. So
Hmm.
she got that, but the other part was from the family. You know, we had to pay for that with coffee, with the coffee that was grown at the farm. So yeah, that's how she was able to do that.
So that seems like a real monumental task. I mean, here,
It
even,
is.
I mean, I grew up in kind of a typical suburban family, and even paying for me and my sister's education seemed monumental. But you truly were all going all in to make that happen.
Yeah, yeah, it was an extra effort because of just the number of people that needed support, five of us, and then just compare those prices with the income that you will make. Then you start realizing, it's you're at a massive disadvantage. So you have to make every amount of money count. So like one of the things that people still do over here, when the children go to college, the parents will send them food from the countryside because there will not be enough money to like have the children buy food at the city, right? So my mom, I remember she used to send all sorts of just groceries from home because they were grown in there. The bananas were grown in there, the yuca was grown in there, uh, onions were grown in there. So she will send all of that for my siblings to eat because you wanted to make the money last for other stuff.
Wow. I not to interrupt this conversation, but I just did the math. So if the average cup of coffee is around 250 to 275 in America, that's $129 a pound because a pound of coffee will make 47 cups.
Yeah, exactly.
So you're saying that back then coffee was going for 40 cents a pound, and when it's sold at a
Yeah,
Starbucks in America, they make $129 a pound.
yeah, that's pretty much what it is. Yeah.
Right. And when we came down to start doing deals with the farmers and doing the coffee, we increased the coffee price to a large amount to the point where they were very happy.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So that kind of thing makes a massive difference. I mean, even if you increase, 5 cents per pound, 10 cents per pound, it makes a massive difference because the prices are usually so low that any increment can really make a massive difference.
Right.
And like I said, what I have shared is not our story. It's the story of many families
Right.
even to this day. And so that's what we're trying to accomplish with the native root coffee company, is to be able to help as many families as possible with improving the payment, but also of course in exchange for a really high end coffee, because we are supporting the families in being able to produce better coffees. The processes that we have experimented with at our own farm, we are bringing that knowledge to the other farms, so that it's not just about the farmers. Of course, it is about bringing really high quality coffee and paying more for that quality. That's our job on the side of the farmers. And then on the side of the customers, of course, we are honoring them in that we are providing really, really, really good coffee every
Well,
time.
and that's incredible that you're doing that because the coffee is good out of the gate because it's where it's grown and the people have the knowledge they have, but you increasing their knowledge through testing and experimenting and coming,
Yeah.
cupping it, going to different, when we were down there, we went to the co-op and we cupped coffee down there. And Tara and I learned about the cupping process at that point
Yeah.
and what the coffee people are looking for. And for you to do that for this is homesteading, Ervin. This is, you went out into the world and gained a ton of knowledge, and you're bringing it back to your people. And that is the essence of what we're talking about with this homesteading. You know, bringing it back to the roots, using all your knowledge to help everybody, and especially in your community, because you uplift your community, you actually uplift the world. So I'm incredibly proud of you. I'm so glad that we know you. I'm very happy we met you, and that you reached out like you did, because it's been a fun journey up till now. Who knows what happens tomorrow, but it's been great up till now.
Exactly. Yeah.
No, this is great. I hope everybody is going to enjoy listening to this. Yeah, so we're just putting in chickens and a garden, and we have stores very close, and it's very easy for us to go to the store. Nowadays with the internet, you're hopefully your people will catch on to the fact that they can learn so much from the internet.
Yep.
That it's not just a place to social media gossip with their friends and do
Right.
all the ridiculous things you can do on the internet. And I know that you're bringing that message too. You're like an uncle to all the young people in the tribe. And we talked about some issues when we were down there, and I know that you were talking to people saying, hey, there's much better uses to this internet thing. You could learn how to build, you could learn how to farm, you could learn how to do different things in your temperate region wherever you live.
Yeah, exactly. And nowadays it's very different because everybody, like everywhere else in the world, here in Colombia, everybody has a phone nowadays, and pretty much everybody has access to data. And so many people today, they will do what you said. They will spend a lot of time on Instagram, on Facebook, on WhatsApp, just kind of like gossiping. And it's fine up to a certain point because it is something, it is a novelty, right? It is something new, it is something that they have never experienced, and so that's fine. But the next step is to, yeah, take advantage of that resource and make a better living for themselves with that technology that they are now able to access. But it is a process. It is something that you have to work on, and let people know that they can do that, because for many people, all the contact that they have had is just with social media. So they also don't know, they are still blinded to the idea that they can get information that is very useful through that same technology, through the internet.
Right.
So yeah, that is kind of like one of the things that we do. Yeah.
Yeah, well, if you want to be like Ervin Liz and you want to be like the big yellow Norwegian, that's me.
That's
And you
right.
want to you want to be like the Tara the white lady from America. You've got to study. You've got to read your books. You got to learn on the internet. You can go to university on the internet now. You can go to YouTube and learn anything
Exactly.
you want. And
Yeah.
it's such a resource, especially for people that are out in the boonies, as we would say, way out in the
Yes.
sticks or out in the countryside.
Yep.
It's
Yeah,
phenomenal.
absolutely.
So let's do a little more layout of your cousin. Your dad has a store. Does he still have the store?
Yeah, so since the last time we took down the old house that we had, and we have now built a new house with contributions from all of the siblings and work from all of the relatives. So
Very.
we also did a minga for that project, right?
Yeah.
Everybody working for, yeah, putting different resources, putting different times, and that kind of thing. And so we now have a new house. And yeah, one of the things that my parents always had was a small grocery store for people to buy stuff in there that they will not be able to produce themselves. So things like rice, things like potatoes, things like sugar, uh, panela, which is a raw sugar as well,
Yeah.
things like oil, cooking oil, toilet paper, all that kind of thing that you will not be able to make on your own. they have them at the store. They have those items at the store, and they will always sell to the neighbors. And it's been one of the stores that has lasted the longest. And that also taught me a very important lesson, because many of the neighbors have tried to do the same, and then they will end up without any store after probably a year or 2 years. And I realized that is because of a lack of managing, like, good management
Yeah.
techniques, I guess, good managing practices. And my dad was always a very good manager in that. He will have an accounting system. He would take care of inventory, and he will not let us in there to eat the candies. And and that's kind of like one of the things that every other family will start with. Like, they let their children go in and just like start eating the candies, and then they start eating the cookies, and then they start eating everything, and then they don't have a store.
Right.
And ours, it always has been there. And it's never ended because of that. It's not about being stingy. It's about managing it properly. And of course, when you can eat a candy, you eat a candy, but it's not every day. You don't go and eat your way through the store.
Well, you're learning that. You obviously learned from your father, but you're running a business now, and if you
Right.
if you spend your money and you don't buy new inventory, your business is done.
Exactly. And yeah, exactly. So that's where I got that to begin with. And that's why I have always been very careful with the money that I have. Like you said, John, like you have said several times. The money is like water. It's only powerful when it's moving. And that is absolutely correct. But also, you have to be careful as to where that money is moving. And so, being part of being a good manager is understanding where those moments are, and sort of like designing a budget for every purpose. After a point, after you are making enough money, you kind of like can play more with it. But when you are just starting, you have to make sure that the resources are well allocated, are properly used. And then, whatever is left, you can play with it, or you can keep reusing it to invest and make it multiply even more. So I got that from definitely from my parents, but also at college. I learned those management um, techniques and methods. And but yeah, all of that began in there by seeing that example.
Right. So are you saying that all those car rides and those lectures you didn't want to hear actually helped?
Somewhat, we can say.
You remember we get in the car and you were stuck with me for an hour?
Yeah, we can say it helps. Not just kidding. They helped a lot.
Well,
Yeah, I have
at some,
definitely.
even if they don't help now, at some point they will. I
No.
remember the looks on your face so many times. I'm like, but you know me, I never stopped. I just kept going.
Yeah, so many things at the moment don't make sense, but when you actually start living them, then
Yeah.
you realize, oh yes, that's exactly where that comes from. And I do things like that nowadays, like I have been telling you, even with my own girlfriend. And sometimes she doesn't understand, but I know what I'm doing because I have already experienced it, and I don't have to explain it. It only makes sense once you see it. And
Yeah.
that's sort of like how it's been with you and I as well. That, you have taught me so many lessons that some of them are still not applying, but I know that someday they will. But so many of them have already applied. So many of them, I have already seen them in real life. I have been able to experience them, and I am just very grateful that we have been able to have so many conversations. And whenever I see a situation, I realize that I have already heard about those situations and be able to internalize them better.
Well, you know this now. You only do it with people you care about,
Right.
right? And you a lot of times you're doing it because not only did you live it, but you made the mistake.
Right.
And that's even more powerful because that sticks in your mind, and it actually sticks in your every cell in your body. When you make,
Everywhere.
well, yeah, when you make a mistake and you survive through it, or when you're down to your last few dollars and then you get a big order, or however it works, it's hard dealing with people that don't understand that. A lot of people just think business owners got money and that's it, and they're just
Yeah.
using people. And
Yeah.
boy, when you've got to do 13 jobs in your company, you
Hmm.
have a whole new respect for business owners, don't you?
Exactly. Yeah. And it is an entire process. It is so many variables that you have to take into consideration. It is so many things that you need to be careful with and be a good manager and be a good planner and be a good everything because at the beginning you are doing everything. So
Yeah.
you have to be good at everything that you are doing.
Well,
And
thank
yeah.
you for allowing me to pat myself on the back through you.
Yes, no, definitely. A
We had a
massive,
lot of
massive
fun.
pat on the back.
I'll, I'll tell you what, we certainly miss you up here. And we wish that the whole COVID thing didn't happen, and that the problems in Colombia didn't happen with the drug cartels, because we certainly would have loved to come back down there a couple times.
Mm, yeah.
Yeah, and we will.
Yeah, it
We
is.
got to stay in our bedroom in the new house.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Yes, it's in there. It's ready for you guys.
I remember your dad. Your dad's like, I'm building a room for you.
Yeah, yeah,
I'm like,
yeah.
damn, we haven't been down there.
Yeah, you have to come. We will make it happen eventually. And yeah, I
Absolutely.
definitely miss you guys as well a lot. And thank you for everything that you have done. And yeah, we'll keep working. We'll keep in touch. We'll keep making things happen.
Absolutely.
Definitely. There are more dinners to be had.
Absolutely right.
Well, that was great. I think we'll cut this off right here at about an hour. Um, that was really great. I appreciate you sharing. I think more people need to hear your story, and I love bringing it out of you. I love talking about your story and our story from the beginning. And on the Marital Arts podcast here, I know you've been listening to a few of them. That Tara and I, we talk business, we talk relationships, we talk about our 10 principles and how to build your relationships in your life. And we feel that it's very needed these days. We feel that relationships are not being taught; they're being torn down, and people don't know how to be in business and be married, to their partner
Mhm.
that's in business. Or and Tara and I have multiple businesses together, and now we're doing the homesteading, which is like two more businesses. Having the chickens and having the garden, that's going to take several hours a week every week, and it's like a whole nother business.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you guys are handling things quite well, so I'm not trying
You're not chiming in, yeah.
jumping in too much, but I definitely agree with all that John said, in particular that it's been a blessing to get to know you, Ervin. You've brought quite a few things to our life, including perspective, and we love and appreciate you guys, and definitely look forward to free travel. Well, for the freedom to travel more
Right.
in the near future.
And say hi to Bibiana for us.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Will do. Thank you so much.
Yeah, and
Hugs.
say hi to mom and dad. And I'm gonna I'll text you later. I want to talk to you about Misael.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
You have a great day.
Have a great
All right.
day.
Thank
Talk
you.
to
Have
you
a
later.
great
Bye bye.
day.
Bye,
Yeah.
Irvin.